Hi, this is Human Superpower, and today we're going to dive into the dilation of the pupils. We're going to have a light look into the constriction of the pupils as well, and we're going to apply it to dating and relationships, and go as far as attraction in general. If you enjoy this topic and you want to learn further how to understand people, what they really mean, and just general know-how of how body language works, please feel free to subscribe, as this is the first video and I will be taking my time to do a whole bunch more. I have a lot of information on the subject and I'm looking forward to giving some good information. Not many people tend to do so. It's still a relatively niche form of study, but if you want to press subscribe, please do so, and I would really appreciate it. So moving on. So, dilation is the expansion of the pupil, the enlarging of the pupil, okay? And the opposite would be constriction. Now, constriction means the narrowing. They're both counter opposites and they both represent completely different meanings and potential mind states. So, it's very important to pay attention. So, before I start talking about pupil dilation in relation to relationships and dating and so on and so forth, what I want to state is that body language and reading nonverbal communication is an incredibly broad spectrum of understanding. To read the pupils is one thing, but to understand how it correlates with a cluster of facial expression or the direction of someone's feet or a particular twitch associated with an individual, that's something you will have to start understanding in the long run. Purely as an isolated instance is not as reliable as seeing a cluster of actions at once, alright? So in the body language world, it is called a cluster, and a cluster is what it says on the tin. It is a cluster of behaviours at once. So if you were to consider the dilation of the pupils in regards to attraction as a word in a sentence which explains how the individual does actually feel towards you. The benefits of understanding the pupils and how constriction and dilation works, though, is that these are completely unconscious behaviours. So an individual would not be able to fake the dilation or constriction of the pupil, and they won't even be aware themselves of how their eyes are reacting. So to understand some very serious factors that surround the dilation and constriction of the pupils, and things you should really take into consideration first and foremost before jumping to a conclusion, is the lighting of the environment, okay? So if the environment is dimly lit, what the pupil naturally does is dilates, and it dilates to allow more light in, okay? On the flip side, if it's a very bright environment such as beneath the sun or an incredibly lit room, what's going to happen is that pupil is going to constrict, and it's going to constrict to ensure that the eye isn't damaged from absorbing too much light. Another important thing to take into consideration is the use of substances. So any endorphin boosting drug such as cocaine, LSD, MDMA is going to provoke dilation, and that is something that will relate to attraction, okay? So an endorphin boost to the brain is going to dilate and arouse the pupils, okay? On the contrary, opiates and opioids are going to constrict the pupils, okay? So you're going to develop a serious case of the BDI if you're on opiates or opioids. So if we discuss what we've just covered, what we would be able to say is, if the pupil expands to allow more in, to improve visibility, when looking at you in a state of arousal, an individual's pupil may dilate to see more of you. Okay, so if the pupil dilates in real time to see more of you, or in reaction to a particular joke or comment you make, that's to absorb more information, okay? And on the contrary, the constriction of the eye is to take in less, okay? Because the constriction of the eye is based around focus, whereas the dilation of the eye is more in relation to a peripheral view. So on the flip side, if somebody's eyes constrict in real time, that can relate to sense of fear, anger, and not necessarily positive emotion. And I'm saying this purely as if you are fearful. Let's say, as an example, if somebody wanted to take something off of you on the street, your eyes will constrict to ensure it can fine-tune and focus to the situation at hand. It's what we call tunnel vision, okay? So I don't think on a date you want your potential suitor to be in a state of fear and seeing you through tunnel vision and focusing on you to ensure that you don't do any harm, right? What's going to happen is you want their eyes to be dilated, to take in more of you. It'll be a clear sign of positive endorphins to the brain alongside something that's easy on the eyes, okay? And I'll tell you what happens is as we get into the dance of nonverbal communication and we fall into sway with someone, is our eyes will actually dilate to mirror theirs. So as you're looking into a set of dilated eyes, more than likely your eyes are going to be doing the same and promoting that subconscious attraction, okay? Something quite significant to reference is the paternal and maternal instincts one can provoke when looking at someone with heavily dilated pupils. This purely as it reflects a childish state. As a child, our pupils do dilate naturally to manipulate adults into essentially doing what we want. It's definitely why the best-selling toys for children are big Google eye. I can't tell you too much about kids' toys, but they definitely have big, bold pupils and eyes on them, and they are definitely the best-selling toys. Alongside that, imagine if they were constricted eyes, they'd look quite scary, wouldn't they? They'd look quite horrific. So not only regarding kids' toys do we see dilated pupils as a means of attraction, we also see them on the front of magazines now. Not only is there a heavy emphasis on eye contact, which I will be delving into on a later video, but people are more likely to find someone attractive given they have dilated pupils, naturally. So if we take into consideration the fact that our pupils mirror those whom we see with dilated pupils, that is essentially a win-win situation as far as dating goes, purely as we both find each other at least more attractive than we would do with constricted pupils. If the individual sitting across from you is looking at you with constricted eyes, you might have a little bit of wiggle room to get things moving in the right direction. To talk further on the best-selling children's toys alongside how children get what they want from adults, something to take into consideration is the additional benefit of a maternal and paternal instinct that big, bold, broad pupils can raise whilst in the dating stage or regarding any stage full stop. It's definitely a benefit to be able to look after one another in a relationship, so sparking that feeling in one another is it's very good. I won't delve too much into that purely as this isn't a Freudian psychologist YouTube channel, so we'll move on from that one, but do your research. It's important to take into consideration also that women tend to put makeup on, eye makeup in particular, given the topic at hand, which enhances further the boldness and the emphasis of the eyes and the dilation to make it even more so attractive. The funny thing with makeup, another video I'm going to do, is a lot of the reasons as to why we find particular makeup appealing sort of goes under the radar, and even the individual who applies it might not know themselves, such as lipstick. For it, it's a bit of a tangent, but regarding lipstick as an example, a blushed red lip represents a biological flood of blood to the sensual areas. So not only does blood flow to the lips, but it also flows to particular other parts when sexually aroused. So take that into consideration when people wonder why are red lips so attractive and why is it deemed as sensual to wear red lipstick. So just to finalise, there was a study taken by Eckhard Hess, and what he did was he conducted a pupil response experiment, and what he had done is he showed 5 pictures to respondents, one of them being a naked male, one of them being a naked female, a baby, a mother and a baby, and an image of a landscape. So he showed 5 separate pictures to a whole bunch of respondents, and what he had found was that when it came to the men, heterosexual men, they were primarily dilated, or their eyes dilated the most when seeing the naked female. When it came to the gay men, their eyes dilated whilst seeing the naked man. And oddly, well, it's not oddly, but I'll let you have some food for thought with this. What do you think it was when it came to the woman? The women's eyes dilated primarily when it came to the mother and the baby. So when women were shown an image of a mother and a baby, their eyes dilated more so than when seeing an image of a naked man, which came second. So I'll let you take some time to wonder why that could be. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learnt a little things, and I hope this is beneficial. It's very important. It also gets you looking at people in the eyes. It's incredibly beneficial for building relationships. So, one love, people. Peace.